And so there's been quite a pushback from developing countries saying we need to decide what it is that we want to do to develop, and then you can give us money and we'll do our own development plans. And so there was a Paris conference in which it was agreed that all countries should come up with their own development plans, and then donor countries would provide money through those development plans. Well, what's happening now? Canada is out and telling various countries, put mining in your development plan. Because if you put mining in your development plan and say that mining is part of how you're going to develop your economy, then we can provide support to the mining industry through our development aid. And so this is a really important sort of piece of the puzzle. And I think there was an article by Winnie Monsood shortly after the MPA attacks. And I was so impressed at the end of her article, she actually, and I didn't know who she was, unfortunately, and now I do. And I know that she's an economist. And I think the work she's doing is critical. Because it doesn't just show, it's not just the mining companies, right, that are out trying to sell this mining as development thing. It's also governments, like the Canadian government. Because it's in the Canadian government's interest to promote our industry. And so to be able to say that it's, that now our industry is actually not a mining industry, it's a development industry, they can then provide Canadian taxpayer dollars to further support the industry in doing what it's doing here. So it's a complex story, but I think that's what we really need to start questioning more. And those numbers that that Michelle and Gina showed were really important numbers, and that's the kind of analysis we need. We need a more sophisticated analysis. It's not just about the mining companies. It's about the government supporting those mining companies.
Okay, let me take you on.
I'm Jude Liposa from BSO Baginan Foundation. I'm from Samar, so I'm happy that Gina featured my island as part of her presentation.
You're from Marikani?
I've been to Bagakay. I'm originally from northern Samar, where the Australians used to have bauxite claims. And they found out that the quality of the bauxite in Samar is not high enough to merit industrial mining production. But I've never been to Marikani, so it's good that you mentioned that you've been there, and I'd like to be there. My point, again, in the spirit of what Dr. Professor said, of working together, is that we need the kind of information that Catherine in Canada has. Aside from Palawan, Samar is one of the few islands in the Philippines that still has a substantial forest cover. But we are told that so long as Enrile is the president of the Senate, that we're not going to have the Samar Island National Natural Park law passed.
Why?
I hope, because the enabling law has to pass approval in the lower house and in the Senate.
So why won't he want
But because he has one of the largest subsisting timber license agreements, the TLA, that used to be San Jose Timber Corporation. And I hope, Gina, that you were able to get Senator to sign the petition and have a change of heart. Okay? But these are two things, really. The spirit of working together. Samar is so isolated. It used to be, very much well known for the NPA. And in fact, maybe it's because of the presence of the NPA that we still have intact forest cover there. So what we really need, Catherine, is, again, working together, the kind of advocacy that you have in Canada, and linking that information to the people of Samar. We have a partnership with QSO, a volunteering organization. We're expecting, BSO Bagian expecting to place Canadian volunteers, because this is CEDA funded, Canadian volunteers to work with the DNR and the Samar Island Natural Park to develop ecotourism in the Ulot watershed. So I think this is a very good way forward, and again, the spirit of working together. Yes, thank you.
All right.
Yeah, I just want to say NGOs getting together, and they've now rolled it out, they're very public about this, and they're now directly going after money together, right? Development money. So far, VSO is not part of this, but WUSC is, which is the University Services Overseas. They're part of this thing now. So Yeah, I mean, information is power, and so for sure, I'd be really happy to work with anyone in the room who wants to have more information on these things.
Okay. Yes? And then me.
First, I'd like to thank the two ladies for the very informative presentation. It was an eye-opener. I'm a lawyer and I'm ignorant about what they said. My question is, what happens after you get the 10 million signatures? Is that a guarantee that our government will stop the mining there?
Well, this is my experience with the signature campaign. When they had, when the Clean Air Act was being deliberated in the halls of Congress, for 10 years it was remained unpassed. And when I took a chopper and then I saw the line, I said, what is that? And it's like a pollution line. And then I found out the law was being deliberated, so we went out for 5 million signatures. And then we delivered the 5 million signatures in the halls of Congress as they were deliberating, and the children were in gas masks. And the law was passed. And unfortunately, our air remains dirty. But the good thing is the law was passed. Okay, when the president herself, the existing president, GMA, wanted to put up a housing subdivision on top of the La Mesa watershed, which is the water supply of 12 million people. And I went to her and gave her the studies of two academic two scientific, highly scientific organizations. And I told her, Mom, if you put up a housing subdivision, you will jeopardize our water supply. I even went to the halls of Congress because, Baygon. Okay, Baygon is deadly. Okay, so what we did is we put Baygon in half the glasses. Okay, and then during the water break, we gave out half Baygon and then half non-Baygon, but it looked exactly the same. Okay, so we gave it out, and then just before the Senate was going to drink, I said, wait, don't drink, no? Half that water is polluted and toxic and can kill you, and you don't even know it. And then they got scared. And then one man was so thirsty, he went and drank it. I said, stop that right now! And then the glass of water went into his barong, and then Tia Cayetano said, okay, let's now adjourn the session because I removed that. Anyway, so that's how we went. And then so we got 5 million signatures. We got it in 8 months. And we stopped the building of a housing subdivision on top of the La Mesa watershed. So now when Jerry, my guy that was shot on January, told me that there's this thing again. And then I told him, don't worry, we'll just get 10 million. Because the week before that, I had just looked at the internet, and I saw that, you can get 14 million in 1 week, and like that, on the YouTube. So I just said off the top of my head, okay, we'll go for 10 million. And not realizing, well, that actually the Philippines is not a computer country. And that actually getting the 10 million is going to be a lot of hard work. But since we've already done it, I see it as a blessing, because in the process of getting the 10 million, we're really educating a lot of people. And I think that's very, very important. So I have faith, like for example, there's a Senate, that's 10% of the population. And by the way, it's not only, it can be from 15 years old and above, and it can be foreigners. And all these politicians depend on the population for their political survival. If a major part of the population doesn't want mining and they continue to do that, then they're in big trouble. So I continue to feel optimistic, because that's the way the country works, that people power. And besides, every time we get another million, I'll put Noy where he said that, kayo ang Weston. Okay, so I'm positive, I'm very optimistic.
All right. Yes, that's it.
How many do you have now?
2,200,000, 2.3. Did you include the 200,000 of Tiati na? Okay, 2.5. 2.5. But I go around and go to assumption. How many will you give me? 1 million? How many will you? Let's see what happens. No, I think we'll make it. I'm very confident we'll make it. It's just taking a lot of time. No, it's the logistics involved. Yeah.